Your past does not direct your future. Here's a personal truth of Sourena's. Sourena's had a disability since the day he was born, right? And for years in the back of his mind, there was a quiet belief, significant, visible success, the kind that involved doing the things he in his head dreamed of doing, like writing books and speaking on stages and building an audience, was just harder for him, right? Maybe even, unfortunately, impossible. But the belief was rooted in real experiences because his disability, the cerebral palsy, really does make every average little thing that he does every single day that much more challenging, right? And there are real moments that things didn't work out the way he had hoped. And real feedback that, well, stung, right? Real limitations that he has that just aren't going anywhere. But having a real reason to give up is not the same as having the right reason to give up. So in this video, we're going to talk about why your past, no matter what's in it, doesn't have to be your direct future, how reframing setbacks can actually work for you, how to find workarounds in situations where the obvious path is closed, and how to stop letting old stories ruin your current decisions. These videos are a collaboration. Sourena, who has cerebral palsy, develops the written material, and I present it on camera.
Your past does not agree with you. It's important to understand the past. Another step you
I'll take it away. Setbacks are not personal. They're universal, right? Failure is not evidence that you are uniquely unqualified. It's evidence that you're a human being, right? And here's the backstory that nobody ever leads with. Talk about Tom Brady. Do you know what pick he was in the draft? 199th, right? Not first, second, third, top 10, top 50, top 100. 199th. And he, arguably, but it's really hard to argue, is the greatest quarterback in NFL history, right? He was passed over by every team 6 times before he finally got drafted, and now he is known frequently as the GOAT. Or how about another person, played a little basketball, Michael Jordan. What you might not know about Michael Jordan is he was cut from his high school team. He didn't even make his high school team. And now he's considered the greatest basketball player alongside LeBron James, Clevelander here, but he was cut by his high school team, right? So wasn't even the first pick in the NBA draft when he went there, and here he is, again, what most would consider the GOAT of basketball. 2 people with backstories that you generally don't lead with, you just hear, oh, here's the greatest of all time. But all of us have a version of this story. Maybe it's not in football or basketball. So the difference is we've all faced adversity, right? It doesn't look like it sometimes, but we've all faced it. The difference is what that adversity meant to you. Because setbacks are not a flaw in the system. They're a feature of the journey, right? So what Sourena wants you to do is write down one setback that you've been treating as evidence that success is not for you. Then ask, would you use the same logic to disqualify someone you believed in? The off-ramp problem. Every setback comes with a seductive exit, right? And that exit usually feels justified. The industry is just too competitive. I don't have the right connections. The timing is not right. The good opportunities are taken. Those are very seductive answers that we feel justified because that's the reason we can't be successful. But successful people don't take the off-ramp, right? If something goes wrong, immediately a narrative pops up in your head and explains why this particular situation is uniquely difficult for you specifically, right? It feels like it's just you, not realizing that everybody has challenges. Everybody goes through things just like this. But what makes that narrative extra dangerous is not that it's false, right? Often there's real truth behind them, right? There's facts behind it. But the problem is we treat them like conclusions instead of conditions to work within. They become our off-ramp instead of, okay, how do we figure out how to deal with this? You know, Sourena could look at his situation with cerebral palsy that affects every aspect of his daily life and say, you know what, I can't be a speaker. I can't build this incredible YouTube channel. I can't write books. Technically, that would be accurate. And by the way, that's an off-ramp he could have taken that nobody would ever have argued with him or thought less of him. They would have accepted it, and it would have been safe. And in some ways, he could even justify it. But it's not actually a dead end. It's just the first version of the problem. And if you treat it that way, that's when you're going to be on the road to success, right? The first version of a problem is generally not the final version of a problem if you're committed to your success. A technically true reason to quit is not equal to a good reason to quit. You know, there are times in life where something's just not right or something's not right for you, and those are a good reason to quit. But majority of what we face are technically true reasons you could quit. You could take the off-ramp, you could justify it, but it's not the same, right? So Sourena wants you to identify one narrative you've been holding about why something is not possible for you, right? Now treat it as a constraint to work around, not walk away from, right? Again, not something you're going to take the off-ramp for, but something you're going to figure out a different way to get to that journey. If you enjoy this content, make sure that you download Sourena's ebook, 5 Keys to an Amazing Mindset, by clicking on the link in the description. And also, please like, comment, and share. There's almost always a workaround. The path you imagine might be closed, but the destination, if you're willing to put in the work and rewrite your narrative, is probably still reachable. The goal was never the method. And that's something that you have to remember. A goal is a goal. A method is how we get to that goal. So in order for Sourena to build an audience, create a YouTube channel, to speak on stages, to write his books, he needed a team, right? Somebody to bring his thoughts to life. That's one of the things that I do. I deliver his content for him on YouTube. When we speak at different events, I'm his interpreter on stage to help him deliver these amazing keynote sessions that inspire and motivate audiences to take action, right? And these are not compromised solutions. That's how he gets the work done, right? It's a workaround, right? The goal was never to do things a specific way. It was to achieve a goal, and this is the way he heads towards that goal, right? It's to reach people, to share ideas, to build something meaningful, and this just happens to be the way because of his circumstances that he needs to do that, right? That is his workaround. But a lot of us get stuck because we fall in love with a methodology, a way things need to be done, and we think this is the only way and this is how it's got to be. There's no other way to get to that goal. And when all of a sudden that is not the proper way to do it, we take the off-ramp and we give up, right? Because that method gets blocked. We decide the goal is blocked, and that's just not the case, right? Let's say you want to write and you say, I don't have the time to write. Well, there's always 10 minutes in your day that you could write. Between meetings, when you have a break, after dinner, first thing when you wait. There's always time to find 10 minutes. But sometimes we think the methodology is I got to write so much every day or it's just not ever going to hit the goal. No, 10 minutes a day will get you to your goal. You want to get healthy, but I just can't afford a gym membership. Walk around your block. Watch all the free exercise videos on YouTube. There are ways to do it. Again, the goal is not the method, right? Progress doesn't require perfect conditions. It just requires consistent actions, even imperfect ones, right? Imperfect action is better than no action at all. So Sourena wants you to think about a goal that feels blocked right now and think about the way you're approaching it. Then come up with 3 methods that will make progress, even if it's small, even if it's just minor progress, without removing the obstacle. How to actually learn from a setback. Mining the lessons from failure is work. And it's some of the most valuable work you'll ever do if you want to accomplish amazing things. And that starts with structured reflection, right? Ask the right questions. Many people replay their failures on a loop and they just think about them, right? Or they just bury them entirely. They compartmentalize them never to think about it again. But the problem with both of those things is neither produces growth. And if we want to move forward towards our goals, we've got to grow. The thing that actually moves that needle is what Sourena calls structured reflection, right? Ask the right questions and sit with the answers long enough to do something useful with them. You know, for example, you try to launch a new business and it's not working out. Here are the questions you ask yourself. What did you learn about the product or service? Did you truly understand your customers? Were your operations solid? Did you have the right people in the right roles? Were you working on your business or just in it, right? Or with a goal, if it just keeps stalling, what got in the way last time? What was the plan when motivation ran out? What did your environment make easy versus make difficult, right? And these are not rhetorical questions. They're an intelligent gathering of information for your next attempt at that business or at that goal. Every experience, whether it's success or failure, contains a lesson if you're willing to learn, right? The work is extracting those before you move on. So Sourena wants you to take your most significant recent setback and answer the 3 questions. What went right? What went wrong? And what could I do differently? Reframing your past. Acceptance is not agreement. You can acknowledge what happened and still choose a different meaning. Accept, reframe, and move forward. So what does reframing actually mean? Reframing the past does not mean pretending it was fine, that it was perfect, that there were no issues. It also doesn't mean toxic positivity, like no matter what, everything is just great, because that's not realistic, right? It also doesn't mean practicing gratitude for truly painful experiences. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is this. You get to decide what your experiences say about your future, right? Even if you can't change what it says about your past, the breakups happened, the business failed, the job fell through. Those things are fixed. What's not fixed is the meaning you assign to them as you go forward. And again, you don't have to be grateful for hard things. You just have to stop letting them be in charge. The goal is to accept the experience clearly, without minimizing it, without letting it become the defining story of your entire life. Because when you hold it that loosely, you can actually use it. You can use the lessons that help carry you forward without carrying the weight of that bad experience or that shortcoming. So Sourena wants you to do this. Choose one past experience that still carries weight, right? Something that still weighs on you that you think about probably more often than you should. Write one sentence about what it cost you, and then write one sentence about what it taught you. Because here's the thing, both of those can be true. The story you're telling yourself right now, the narrative running in the background of your mind is the most powerful variable in your life. How interpretation shapes response. How we interpret situations determines our response to it. Two people can go through the exact same experience and walk away with two completely different outlooks and lessons because they came in with two different stories that they're telling themselves. There's setback as information and setbacks as verdicts. Setbacks as information, people use setbacks. They grow, they adjust, they keep going, right? They learn from these things. They become better for having that setback. And then there's the flip side, the setback as a verdict. People are stopped by setbacks. They confirm what they feared. They withdraw. They give up. That's their off-ramp, right? Obviously, you want to see setbacks as information, right? And it's not about willpower. It's not about positive thinking. It's just about developing the habit of examining your interpretations with the same rigor you would apply to any other area of your life, right? When you hear yourself say, I can't do this because, just press on. The narrative you accept about your past becomes your instruction manual for your future. So Sourena wants you to identify one belief about yourself that originated in a past experience and ask this, is it still accurate? Or is this still an old story just running in new circumstances, right? Ask whether it's actually true or whether the story that has simply been long enough with you to feel true.